Welcome to the Are You Mad at Me podcast. I'm Josh Morgan.
And I'm Vickie Morgan. We're into even numbers, episode 22. I'm very happy.
Double digits, you mean?
Divides evenly. No,
oh, yeah,
I mean an even number. 21 was a little weird for me. But
it's anyway, the double deuce.
Sure. We're 22 episodes in. We're still married.
And you still find me hilarious.
Mm-hmm. Anyway, it's been a great week. I'm very excited.
There's been a lot of stuff happening this week.
I'm excited. And I'm noticing a bit of a pattern in my life. And I feel like I want to throw this out to the listeners just to get some feedback. Just to say, does this happen to you? Because I've noticed a pattern over my...
Again, I don't know what you're going to say.
I love it. And see, that's just it. You're just like a listener right now. Like, what is she going to talk about?
Every time you're like, we should do a podcast. And I'm like, what are we going to talk about? And you're like,
wait.
We'll find stuff. And then we just...
Yeah, and then
I have no idea
you'd be
what you're
amazed because I usually pee, wash my hands, and I come down 13 stairs and another 13 stairs. And that's like enough for me to put together a list of topics.
That's really funny that you say that because you must not count the top or the bottom because I count 14 stairs on each.
I have no idea how many stairs there are.
There's 14.
But I knew you'd pick up on that. See? I'm just effervescent. But yeah, I mean, I'm sorry that you're not inside my head and you don't know what conversation I'm about to start, but I think that's what brings some of the charm is that you have no idea what's coming. I think that's what has made us last.
That's been the last 18 years.
Almost 19. We're coming up on another. We're coming up on another anniversary.
Not of being married, but of knowing each other.
Yeah, but to be fair, we didn't know each other that long.
That's right.
Before we got married.
It's probably pretty much the same number.
We're pretty close. So that's coming up. That's right around the corner.
I have a new microphone here. It's not new. It's just a different one because Peter is using my usual microphone, and instead of he's been using it for a few weeks. And every time we do a podcast, I have to be like, Peter, can I use the microphone? Because he uses it to talk to his friends on the computer while they're playing video games.
Is this the one you dropped?
Okay, so here's what happened.
So when Josh takes the microphone off of Peter's mic stand, it has spin. This
one that you have, it has a nice little spinning nut on the bottom of it. So you don't have to spin the whole microphone to unscrew it from whatever it's attached to. The other one, which is also a Shure, also a nice expensive mic, but it doesn't have that spinning nut. So you have to spin the whole microphone. So I'm holding his little microphone tripod and spinning the whole microphone. And I was literally thinking, I'm going to drop this. I'm going to drop this. I'm going to drop this. And then it just slipped out of my hand and it bounced off of a chair, which I was like, well, that's pretty good in the split second that this was all happening. But as a reaction, I stuck my foot out. I wasn't wearing shoes because we're in the house. And it landed the corner of the microphone. These things are not light. The corner of it hit my big toenail square in the middle, and it felt like inside my sock it was just going to be a big mush of toe just smashed like a sledgehammer. Anyway, that was 20 minutes ago, and my stomach has just returned to its normal position because it was one of those pains that just goes right up through your whole body. So, and I've got that big blood blister under my toenail now. So that's...
Does it still hurt?
I can feel it. It doesn't hurt anymore. There's just like a thud going on down there now. Just like a
throbbing pain.
Just a throb with every heartbeat. Yeah.
Oh.
So I can tell that I can really feel alive.
You can feel your pulse in your toe.
I can feel my pulse.
That's not good.
Yeah.
Are you all? Is it okay?
No, really good. Yeah. It was. Okay. It was very painful. Anyway,
we appreciate the sacrifice for the podcast.
Here's the ironic part. You ready?
Yes.
I did all that. I damaged myself, probably permanently.
Yeah.
And then I was like, well, I have another microphone downstairs. Peter I can just leave this one at Peter's desk and see how that other one works. Because when we were recording music a few years during COVID, we bought these two microphones for recording vocals, and they're both really great. And Peter's got the USB one upstairs that I usually use. And
so this one needs a pop filter.
So I just screwed Peter's tripod back on. Put it back, and now I've got mine.
So do you think that it got... it took a little bit of the weight because it hit the chair first?
I think it might have slowed it down a little bit.
Did it gain momentum? Did the chair push it down?
Do you remember in Titanic when the ship went all the way up vertical and that guy fell off and as he was falling, he was like bouncing off of the railing and that was the microphone bouncing.
Okay. That's a visual.
So
wow.
Anyway, so I have this. It is a very hot mic, so I have this pop filter, so it's not hearing all my little plosives like we talked about last week.
Right. Okay.
And
these are good mics.
Hopefully it's not blocking my whole view. It looks pretty good on the camera.
I can still see all your face.
But for those of you that are just listening, it doesn't matter. We don't have to have that conversation.
I'm wondering if that fact that you have to screw it off like that is why it was on the discount table at Long and McQuaid.
Because it was cheaper.
We didn't pay retail for it.
That's true. Yeah, we did get it
like that. These were all new. We got these during the pandemic.
Yeah.
Yeah, so that was fun. But look at all. So, which is the good news is we have a couple of guests coming to our house this week.
We have a lot of stuff happening.
So we have a couple of guests coming in this week, and I'm not sure if that'll be on in 3 weeks but anyway. So it's great that you found another mic that we already have, so we don't need to walk to Long McQueen anymore.
What you're saying is I'll have to unscrew that mic from Peter's table again.
No, we're going to be in the living room for that one. So
Are we?
We're
just going to work it up there?
Yeah,
right?
yeah, that's easier. So we have some. I mean, I'm going to get back to what I started with about the whole trend of whatever. I have somewhere I'm going with this, but what was I going to say?
I don't know. You didn't tell me. Remember that was what we were talking about?
All right. Do you want to do feedback? Do you want to put this little chapter and we want to get the feedback from our listeners?
Let's read the feedback cards.
I'm going to follow in the footsteps of my hero, Nate Bargatze. I feel like the structure of their podcast.
You know Nate Bargatze too?
No, not at all.
I love him.
I've heard of him. I mean, I don't know him.
He's the best.
Yeah, you're very funny. But I feel like watching that podcast, I mean, we went back to episode 1. And I'm learning a lot about manifesting and about putting out, thinking nice things about yourself and how it attracts a certain type of person into your life. It also casts a wide net, so you get some crazy stuff, but that's fine too. But I'm following along with, I think the feedback thing is a little more direct. It's like, here's what somebody said, and they talk about it, whether it's a negative or positive. Yep. They just discuss it instead of being passive aggressive and, vaguely maybe. So I think let's just dive in, don't you think? It's called Are You Mad at Me? If you're coming onto this, if you're listening to this podcast and you're like, this isn't going to be controversial, Vickie's going to talk about benign things and mundane things like
vacuuming.
Sure. Just she's a mom, so she's probably talking about 401ks or so. I don't know. What do we talk about in Canada?
What do moms talk about?
Moms, you know what? Moms are people. I don't know if anyone knows that, but moms are
people too. # moms are people too.
Yeah, and they do regular things. They're regular people before they have children and someone starts calling them mom. They have lives. And might I add, when you're kind of a wild, spicy woman, that's kind of how you end up getting babies. Like that's sometimes where babies come from. That's what sometimes people are attracted to, and then just babies come out of you. So I don't know, just put the pieces together.
This is definitely going to be a clip.
Well, well, it is Easter weekend that we're recording this, so I think there should be some kind of a biological component of that is where babies come from. And the spicier you are, I don't know.
What does that have to do with Easter?
They talk about that's the whole thing, right?
Because it's when Jesus was born.
No, sure. But the rabbits and the eggs or whatever, like there's supposed to be some kind.
You mean like spring, like the equinox and the pagan Easter?
There's something about
the summer solstice.
I don't know what's the thing with the Easter eggs and the Easter bunnies and stuff. It was supposed to be like supposed to help churches teach about reproduction or something, isn't it? I don't know. I never heard about it.
I don't have any idea what you're talking about.
We didn't talk. Well, what's the relation between rabbits and Easter?
So
and
there was hundreds of years ago when the Catholic Church was expanding into places that it wasn't.
Massive growth.
Massive, really big growth. It was going to places where they would...
What a whitewashed revisionist history you're telling here.
It would go into places where they would have these pagan gods and they would worship the sun and the springtime. Yes. And then, so they would have to replace their holidays and their gods with Christian Catholic holidays. And that's why Christmas is in December. That's why Easter's in the spring, because it was to replace the spring...
So the origin,
equinox or whatever it is. So it's the rebirth and things growing and being born and flowers and rabbits and egg. I don't know about rabbits, but eggs and new birth. And I think so. I mean,
I thought we were on
I could
theme.
be talking out of my ass right now. I don't have any.
You might be. I might have been too, though. So that's not. People are not tuning in here for education.
As long as that's known that this is not an educational podcast,
not scientific, not religious, not political. We are idiots.
Except that we had a whole political episode and a whole religious episode.
Yeah, and you know what? The most feedback, the most engagement, some of it negative, some of it, let's not call it negative. Let's just say they weren't our big fans.
They weren't on the same frequency as us.
They were concerned for your mortal soul. And that's okay. I mean, at least, I just wish they had listened to the podcast and not just the trailer, like not just the clip that you posted.
Just the clip.
I'm just saying. It'd be nice. And someone also asked if they could be on the podcast and couldn't tell me anything about the podcast. So, yeah, that one's a little bit comical to me. Like, hey, I feel like we could use your podcast to do a thing, promote what we're doing. And do you know anything about the podcast? No? Great. I just think you'd invest a little tiny bit when you're going to ask somebody to do you a favor.
I think it's important because you might be getting into a whole audience that doesn't have anything to do with your audience.
And I think going back to the idea of I don't know if we've talked about this on a podcast or not, but this is not our first time we've done this.
Right.
We've done many radio shows and many podcasts, and I feel like what has gotten lost in the hoopla and in the excitement of, oh yeah, I'd love to be on your radio show, it is primarily, like, I love broadcasting. I love being in front of a microphone. I really do.
Everybody can tell.
Oh,
you're very good.
Is that a good thing? Oh, thank you. Oh, that's really sweet. But I'm not working at a radio station, so I'm not getting paid to do radio shows or podcasts. So there is an underlying theme or like a motivation to
just a
broadcast.
Constant hum happening all the time in the back of your head.
It is a driving force, and I guess I'm just going to stop being embarrassed about it. When we did the Mulberry Creek Hour, the purpose was to give other musicians a platform and talk about the creative process. And if you'll notice, if you listen to the Mulberry Creek Hour, every single week I did at least one of my original songs. So that if someone came on who had a really good following or was doing really well in the music world, friends of ours, I don't think we had anybody on there that we weren't actually friends with or didn't become quick friends with.
That's true, yeah.
But the whole point of doing a free show is marketing. It's to promote us and them. And
right.
It got so lost, and I didn't realize how severe it was until last week we had on somebody who absolutely understood the assignment. She posted this massive, like, beautiful tribute to, like, how we met and how meaningful it was and how grateful she was and how much fun she had on the podcast. And then she tagged my page. And she promoted what we do. And so I did a really nice post, and I tagged her and promoted what she does. And it was a symbiotic relationship.
I think the kids call that a collab.
Yeah, maybe. Is that what they call it? But it was just comical. Like, it really drove it home because I hadn't really considered it before. It was like, why do I feel exhausted and worn out and trampled on kind of sometimes? Because we had a lot of guests, I'm going to say 98% of them, who, bless their hearts, not an insult, not sure how it got lost because I didn't directly ask either. But they didn't share the podcast.
Maybe that's
they didn't tell anyone they were on
like,
it.
Maybe it wasn't. Maybe that just isn't. What is it? Common knowledge. Like maybe like it's obvious to you. And I think it's obvious to me. But like
maybe it's not
like
obvious.
if you're doing this thing, like share it. It's good for both of us. Like people get to hear more about you as an artist. People get to hear more about us as broadcasters or podcasters or radio show hosts or also musicians. Like it goes, like, it's positive for everybody.
So I just felt this big massive ball of anxiety build up in my chest as you were saying that, and I was gonna come back with, we shouldn't air this part because this is so uncomfortable. But what I just got from that is you brought it back to a communication thing. As a teacher, it was a teacher thing. It's message, receiver, and then a lot of stuff can get lost in translation, right? There's a lot of stuff that can interrupt the flow of that message going across. But also, this is something that we did in school, in university, of when you're teaching somebody something, it's where are they? And then you react to where they are, and you start from, like, how far back do I need to go to explain this? And now that I think about it, if we had other podcasters on, they would have understood. But someone that's coming in as a creative who is only outputting and not really doing their own marketing,
you're just focused
they wouldn't
on your
understand.
Own, yeah.
So maybe I should have been a little... And so I learned a lot this week in just establishing, like, I am doing this to promote what I do. And in so doing, providing a platform for other people, and we can promote each other. But it just dawned on me last week. I almost cried when I saw Nicole's tribute. And I hope you guys go back and watch that episode. Nicole is a self-published author and also a dental hygienist. So she has this area of expertise, and she has managed to, she has 2 books out already. One's a coloring book. One is a children's book.
Yep. And one of them is like a teaching resource too, right?
Sorry, she has 3. There's 3 altogether. She is in the process of publishing 19 more in all the languages. It's amazing.
She's having those books translated into every language she can get a hold of, pretty much.
And so it's a resource for other dental hygienists. You can use it for presentations and things like that if you're in that field. And also there's an adult coloring book, and it's also a kid's book, and it's just like the massive reach. And it's based on her expertise, and she wanted to also write a book. And it's I just love that story because it's a perfect business card she's had people come up to her and say, did you publish a book? It's crazy how successful and how fast it's happening for her because she has found this outlet.
Yeah.
And now she has all this inspiration for all these other books. So I'm really proud of her. Fantastic human being. And I'm just so thrilled that I met her.
Yeah.
We met through LinkedIn. Anyway.
It was a good...
The episode from last week, I'm not going to go over the whole thing again, but it was beautiful because we met and we have this symbiotic relationship where I'm helping her and she's helping me and we're growing together. It's beautiful. But it just done. It did occur. It did click in a big way this week when I saw what she posted, and I was like, "My God, that's what I wanted this whole time," and I didn't even have the words to put it into. So that is not a slight against anyone that's been a guest on our shows in the past. It was just, it seemed obvious to me, and it wasn't coming out. So thank you for teaching. That was a teachable moment right there. We learned right on the podcast that. But it's like I think that's why I feel like I'm better with adults. With teaching adults because I understand, but the pedagogy, or what is it called, pedagogy? Yeah. So that's something that you understand way better than me.
Oh, thank you. I don't feel like I have any better understanding than you, but I think we're a good team, so we work it out together.
It's a balance.
That's all.
Yeah, there's a balance there. So anyway, thanks again to Nicole for being on the show last week, and we have some. I can't even talk about it yet.
So
stay tuned.
I think the reason you started talking about that was because we started doing this, and we were like, it's just going to be the two of us down here in our basement talking because we got, it's just this where we are. And so when Nicole got in touch and was like, do we do guests? Do we have guests on our show? And I was like, well, we could, I guess. I mean, so now we have like, all of a sudden, we've got at least 3 more opportunities happening in the next month.
That's 4 in a month. I want to go back to previous episodes where I've been talking for weeks and weeks and weeks about, you got to like yourself. You got to like yourself. You got to like yourself enough to do it. And it really is opening up my world.
Yeah.
I do have a plan. I know where I'm headed with this one.
Well, that's good.
I got it's not really an Are You Mad at Me segment, but okay, I'll just say it now. So I've been finding in my life that when I cleaned up my cupboards again, and I feel like when I decide on something and I go, I'm excited about this thing and I want to pursue that, or I want to follow that path, it seems like these other opportunities come into my path at the exact moment. And then it's like, well, maybe this is my path because it's here, it's on my doorstep. Maybe I should do this thing. And I kind of forget all the stuff. So I was working, I'm like a chapter away from finishing the book that I've been working on.
Awesome.
Had some ideas for writing some shows, for a couple of pitches that I wanted to send to some broadcasters, and like dinner theater shows and it's dessert theater. And then it just seems like something just totally distracts me, like a dog with, something shiny, or a squirrel, or, there I am. And I just completely get off track from all the things that I'm working on. And then I think, well, maybe this is the right path though, and I should just leave all that. But I know when I first started, when I was doing the marketing program at CNA, many, many years ago, I was also a stringer on VOCM.
Yeah.
And I was called in, so.
I don't know that everybody knows what a stringer is.
A stringer is a part-time reporter where you are on call, and if an accident or a fire or a corporate event is going on that they want covered, you are the person that goes out. And you make basically minimum wage, but you use the radio station vehicles, and there's flashing lights on it, and you park it somewhere conspicuous, and you make a big deal, and there's this massive flag, big banner on top of the microphone, so that if anyone sees it in a media scrum, they'll know that radio station or TV station was there. And it's I don't know what it's like, basically a mascot for a radio station, but you do have to have some interviewing skills, and you need to be able to write the story when you go back to the station.
Thanks for explaining that for the audience, because I definitely knew what it was. I wasn't getting you to explain it for me.
Did you really not know?
I forgot.
Okay. So back in that time, I was a stringer at VOCM, and I had zero qualifications. I had done some.
What qualifications were required?
Journalism.
They
should be
like an education.
I would like to think that someone out interviewing people and on the radio as a journalist would have some background in journalism. So my only experience, I don't think they even asked me this, was I had written for some school newspapers, and I had done some interviews in high school, and a couple of I was writing for a hockey magazine every week and stuff. But I guess maybe I had experience. I just don't think they asked me about it. I knew somebody who's my sister-in-law at the time was friends with the head of the station.
Well, yeah.
Nepotism. Anyway, while I was in that job, I was also doing a marketing program at CNA, and was called. So when I would come in to do a news story, which I hated with a passion. I hated it. But when I would bring the car, the Bronco or the SUV or whatever, back to the station, I would take this route around the building. So instead of going straight to the newsroom, which was right next to the door, I would take this big tour around the whole building.
Yep.
And I would go through all the sales department, all the marketing department, all the ad copywriters.
Oh, you're talking about walking. So after you drop the car off.
I would have to bring the keys back.
I was picturing you still in the car. Driving around the building?
No.
You're talking about walking through the building.
Walking.
Okay, gotcha. Dead
man walking. So I would bring the keys back, but I would not go straight to the newsroom. I would go talk to every single person, and I would just lean in there. And it was like the Vickie tour. They used to call it the Vickie tour. And so one time I was talking to the news director, and he said, "Yeah, I mean, I know you know everybody in the building. We call it the Vickie tour when you bring like, okay." So then when I got married that first time around, I knew all these people who were in marketing and doing like ad campaigns for car companies and all that stuff. So I ended up with a free Escalade that like the weekend I got married at the hockey game. I got a free Escalade for the weekend. And the reason for it was we had this plan between me and the head of marketing at the radio station. We were going to use one of the company corporate vehicles to drive onto the ice. Turns out that was worth tens of thousands of dollars for the hockey team to let a broadcaster come on the ice like that.
Wow.
So they decided, okay, well, we promised you a vehicle. We don't want you to miss out on it for the weekend. So how about you just go take your pick? And I was like, they have Cadillac Escalades.
That's your fave.
And so I went and picked it up on a Friday afternoon. I dropped it back the following Monday, and I just drove it for free that entire weekend, because as a stringer, I wouldn't have gotten that opportunity. As a stringer, I would have gotten nothing.
Yeah.
But because I had made so many friends in the marketing departments around the station, I had all these friends.
The connections.
So I got called into the office one day while I just started the marketing program. I might have been in like the first year is general, and then you branch off into your specialty, so accounting, human resources, or marketing. And within that first few weeks, I was called into the office to the head of the marketing department, and he said, I know you're studying marketing, and I wanted to have a chat with you because we all know you. We've all got a relationship with you now, and you're just a stringer. So how do you feel about coming on as a salesperson and selling ad time to businesses?
While you were still in school?
I was about 3 weeks into the marketing program.
Yeah.
Into the specialization year.
Right.
And if I'm not mistaken, that was 22 years ago. And the starting salary for the first year, this is not going to be impressive now with current salaries, but the starting salary was $30,000. Okay. The second year, you were guaranteed $50,000. And this gentleman, he has passed on since, but he said, I just want you to know nobody ever takes the base salary.
It's always more.
You make so much more. He said, you'll make more than 50 in your first year as long as you got a little bit of drive. And so I'm sitting there and I said, but I'm not trained yet. Like, why would I, why would you hire me to do that job? I'm not trained yet. And he said, because you know everybody in the building and you're supposed to be a stringer. So I know you have the natural ability to do it. We can start next week and we'll train you. He said, you're on the job training. We'll give you exactly what you get over at CNA. So I'm like, okay, student loan, $50,000 or $50,000 in the first year. And I was like, no, I don't know. I think the responsible thing is probably, it felt like a made for TV movie. I was like, I think the right decision is probably to go back to school because I would owe them something maybe, or like I wouldn't have the education to fall back on if I took the job without training. So I turned that job down.
Yeah.
And walked away.
Back to school.
I went back to school.
Yeah.
Yeah. That was 20-something years ago.
Mm-hmm.
Still don't have an Escalade. I'd love to have one. We walked past one the other day, and oh man, just drool. Like those they're my favorite SUVs. Like I know they're brash and
I heard the seats are really uncomfortable.
They're not. They're amazing. Like you could fall asleep in
the steering wheel's too hard to turn.
No, it's not. It's amazing.
The lights aren't really that bright inside.
Oh, like you could see a tick on a deer 3 kilometers away with those lights. And like all the seats have individual climate control. And like the front seat, like you just press, just say you and I had it, and I'm 5'1" and you're 6'3", and I like to be up on top of the steering wheel, and you like to be way back. You just press a button. You just press a button, and it just goes and puts you into place. There's no like adjusting it. Oh, to lumber. No, it's your program.
They got that in Hyundais now.
I don't want an Escalade. There was another time where, back when. My God. So just before we met, actually, it was like really, really almost just before we met. I was like, I had this massive crush on this guy that I was doing a bunch of work with, and we were, doing all kinds of projects together and stuff. But it wasn't really going anywhere, and Newfoundland was kind of dead end for me and stuff. And so I got this job offer in New Brunswick to work at a resort. And it was like, front desk, but, had potential of going to other things. And they actually sent me the contract. They faxed me a contract to sign. And so I had a year of my life planned out. It was, okay, well, we're going to do this thing, and you're going to come up and you're going to excel, and it's going to be great. They were very excited to have me, and I was excited to go. And so I told this guy that I had this crush on, and he said, I don't think you should go. And to follow the path of my idol, Joey Potter, I said, okay, I'll stay.
You said no to Paris.
Yeah, I said no to Paris.
The Paris of Canada, which is New Brunswick, as everybody knows.
St. Andrews.
St. Andrews, New Brunswick.
It's so funny because you and I ended up in New Brunswick doing plays and
we did stuff in St.
productions and TV station that I worked at for a long time in St. Andrews. I ended up there eventually, but it was many years later. I was there with my husband and my children.
I think it was funny that we were there for a little while. Like, we had lived in St. Stephen down the road for a while, and we went to St. Andrews a couple times, and you're like, we passed, what was the name of that hotel? I don't remember. Anyway, we went past the hotel, or we did something at the hotel, and it was like, this place seems really familiar. It was like, I was supposed to come work here.
Yeah, I think there was a picture of it on the contract, if I'm not mistaken.
I don't remember the name of it.
It's old. It's like, it looks like The Shining could have been shot there.
Yeah, I'll look it up.
Okay.
You keep chatting while I look it up.
So I think it's funny how things come around full circle, because we did end up spending a whole lot of time in St. Andrews. We actually did a walk for child abuse prevention.
The Algonquin?
The Algonquin, yep. We did a walk for child abuse prevention in New Brunswick, and also one in Maine. And we had an entertainer come up from Maine, from northern Maine. She drove up.
Southern Maine.
Was it?
Yeah, she lived several hours away.
I was trying to.
We were in northern Maine.
I was trying to say that there was the opposite direction, so it illustrated how far away we were, and I got my compass tipped upside down. She was in southern Maine, and traveled all the way up to
which had to be 4 hours, 3.5 at least, something like that. It was a good drive.
Yeah. And the Algonquin gave us a free room for our entertainer to stay in, which kind of relates to the other thing we got going on this week, but. So the entertainer came up, and we got her some accommodations, got her some food.
Her name was Mama Beth Revels.
Yes.
And we don't have to hide anybody's identity on this podcast, because
it's a podcast.
Mama Beth Revels is great. She's fantastic. We met her at the Newfie picnic in southern Maine, because a whole bunch of people from Newfoundland would get together every year in the summer in southern Maine, and it's
a whole huge population.
She lived in Maine, but she had been stationed in Newfoundland.
Placentia?
Argentia, because she thought she was going to Argentina, but she was going to Argentia, Newfoundland, which is. Right. And so anyway, she lived in Maine, but huge fan of Newfoundland music, and great musician, and a lot of fun, super nice, and all that stuff. Anyway,
I do want one point on this in case somebody is listening from anywhere else and thinks Newfie might be an okay word. It is not okay. It's Newfoundland.
Yes, I'm sorry. It's just the Newfie picnic. That's what they call it.
Yeah, it's people that haven't been here and haven't had the opportunity to be offended by the word.
They were gone for a long time.
They're gone. What do you call them? What do we call them? Not come from a ways. What's the opposite?
The opposite of come from a ways.
Gone
from here.
Gone. Whatever.
Gone from here's.
So they all still gather in, and they don't care about the word because they just haven't been here to figure out how offensive it is. But anyway, if you're just meeting a Newfoundlander for the first time, Newfies are dogs. Newfoundland dogs are Newfies. People from Newfoundland are Newfoundlanders. And then the government a couple years ago decided that they wanted to make a whole bunch of new stationery and make a bunch of money for the mailroom or whoever handles all the stationery. And so they changed it to Newfoundland & Labrador. That's what we should start calling it. Newfoundland & Labrador.
Make it just as hard as possible.
Well, it meant they wanted to include Newfoundland. Or they wanted to include Labrador in the name of the province. And side note, it already was. NL was short for Newfoundland and Labrador. But then some brilliant person probably had a friend in the printing industry and decided, let's change the whole thing. And so it became Newfoundland and Labrador. But that does not shorten to Newfies, respectfully.
We don't do that.
I don't actually give much of a shit about it, but a lot of people get super offended. So if you're talking to a Newfoundlander...
I'm born and raised here, and I'm very offended by it because it's my heritage. Not. And that's right. No, that's you.
Just in case you meet a Newfoundlander, some of them might be offended. And anyway, where was I?
It's usually townies.
So I turned down the job. Excuse me? Someone said that to me the other day. It's probably a townie. And I was like, I just drove in from town. So, yeah.
Yes, I am.
Anyway, I have noticed that when things start to pick up, that's when these offers happen in my life. And it's like, wait, I have a third story. Do you want to hear it?
We are just rolling through the stories tonight.
Well, I'm a bit hyper. Remember last week I had nothing to talk about? I'm pent up now. I got a bunch of them.
It's like the other day when they didn't have any decaf coffee.
Oh,
where
good God.
We were all over the place.
That's not a good idea.
Decaf tea, I'm sorry. You don't drink coffee.
Yeah, let's qualify that. It was just tea. And I was like, ping, ping, ping.
Who was it that said they got some tea the other day and it didn't taste right, and they pulled the tea bags out and they had steeped the tea in the tea bags in coffee instead of hot water?
Not Tim Hortons' finest moment.
Maybe
what were we talking about? So if you have stories like this, I would love to hear it, because, like, my peeps are out there, the people who believe that that we're all divine beings and we create the life we want, and we can manifest what we want. Like, how does this relate? Like, I don't get this energy and how this is happening, because it's like so off course. And it seems like, okay, you cleaned out your cupboard and you have sort of a preference for these things. Like, why do these opportunities come by that just completely take over your life? And it's so hard to, like, no, what is it I wanted again? Like, it's really hard. Anyway.
Tell us the story, because we don't know what you're talking about yet.
So I have this background story, and we haven't even gotten to what happened this week, and we're already past the half-hour mark. So, okay.
This is going to be the first 4-hour episode of Are You Mad at Me?
Okay, so this is a little plug. These are my books and my CD. This is the Mulberry Creek CD. That was the first EP.
I'm going to do the described video. Vickie holds up a purple square CD with Mulberry Creek written on the front of it.
With Vickie holding a fiddle, but please don't let that deceive you. She can only play about 7 songs on the fiddle, and not well. This is my first book right here, is For the Grace of Joe.
Vickie is holding up a book that says For the Grace of Joe with a picture of a pregnant lady turning into a tree.
Okay, you're bad at describing
I'm
video.
really good at it.
This is a beautiful painting by Stephen Hoke,
yes,
who's a very good friend of ours, and he lives out in Oregon, and he does these amazing pet portraits. You just got to see him. So go check out Stephen Hoke art on Facebook.
He's a farmer now.
He has a little farmette. So that's one of our destinations when we go out in the RV, is we're going straight to Oregon to see Stephen for sure.
Morgans go to Oregon.
So that's the first book. Oh, that's nice.
You like that?
Yeah. We should start playing the mouth organ. Or pipe organ?
I'm cutting that out.
So that's his first book. Why am I talking? Oh, the second book is called How to Fail at Documentary Filmmaking.
Vickie holds up a book that says How to Fail at Documentary Filmmaking with lots of pictures of celebrities on the front.
Yeah. And guess what is on the back of there? The picture of us in New Brunswick at the walk.
We were just talking about that.
With Mama Beth. And, remember the
That
group?
was in St. Andrews, wasn't it?
This was in St. Andrews, but she came up for both. We did one in...
I'm trying to remember if that picture was in St. Andrews or St. Stephen.
This is in St. Stephen.
Okay.
We did one in Maine at the St. Joe's campus.
Right.
Yeah. So Mama Beth played at both of those. Are you okay?
I think a bug flew in my eye.
Is that some of your toe blood going up into your eye?
Is
it causing pressure in your veins?
What's it called? Anyway.
I don't know. But do you want me to pinch you somewhere else so it'll distract you from your toe?
No, it's okay. The toe is good. The toe is okay. Yeah.
Okay. It seems like you're falling apart.
I took a lot of CBD.
Oh.
No, I didn't. I'm good.
Did you stick it in your eyes?
Just with a needle, just right in the eyes.
All right. Why am I talking about this? Okay, so this story, this is a story of how I became a musician.
How to Fail at Documentary Filmmaking.
Yeah, I know. The name might not have been the greatest choice.
We've talked about that.
But it's based on the TV show that never got made.
I think it's important to note. Can I see that for a second?
Sure.
For those of you that aren't aren't watching the video version of this podcast, the whole book is done in Comic Sans. Just for that reaction. That's the only reason that we did it, was because so we could giggle afterwards.
Look,
Vickie wrote a comedy book and did the whole thing in Comic Sans.
I think when you try too hard, it gives people the opportunity to go, watch her fall on her face, ha ha ha. But if you try to fail, if you go, you know what, I don't care if it's successful, I'm doing what I love, it's harder for people to make fun of you. So this is actually a little shield.
As a graphic designer, I know I have just a fountain of information in my head about things like this. Comic Sans is a really good accessible font for people with reading differences.
Okay.
That's why the creator of Comic Sans made that, to be easier to read for people that have difficulties reading for whatever reason, whether it's a disability or anything else. Comic Sans that's a more accessible book than your other one, or then another one that's not written in Comic Sans.
So here's my favorite part of this. On page 50 and 51, 1, 2, 3, 4,
Did you just
5.
randomly open it to a page?
I was flicking through and I saw all these redacted signs. I love that. I think that's really clever, and I would want to read this book. So,
it's very funny.
When I called Redacted about payment, his wife said he was in the hospital.
No, you have to read it like, when I called Redacted.
Now, see, this is exactly what I heard when we wrote this. Like, because you helped me edit, of course, and we put it together and polished it up. The first book we did is basically a whole bunch of blog posts that got really wildly popular. Sadly popular, because they were about a baby with a very
rare... It was a
rare,
sad blog.
It was a very rare genetic condition that Joe had. It was trisomy 13, which is also Patau syndrome. And so I was writing our journey on a blog. I had started a blog long before that. And that's where our journey brought us. And so there was tens of thousands of visits on that blog. And I thought, this might make a good book. And so it was 5 years later. I took all the blog posts that people seemed to like, and I filled in the blanks. So the blog posts are in their almost authentic form, like almost word for word. And then I put in chapters that explained what happened in between.
And that was your first experience with self-publishing?
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah. And so this is all written from scratch. This was from the brain, almost not in this order probably. The chapters were all over the place, but I really like, that's what I heard for Redacted. And
Redacted.
I love that. And so this book is based on the project that we did. So I will say that we did make a TV show. It was 70 minutes altogether. The broadcaster absolutely hated it. I mean, hated it.
The show was called How to Fail at Documentary Filmmaking.
It was supposed to be about my life as a filmmaker and how all these projects had gone screwy, and it just didn't work out. And they thought that was a really funny concept. But when we sent it to them, the concept had kind of changed hands. And so there was a new person kind of supervising what was going on. And they hated it. Like, they sat with me and said...
It's very Jerry Seinfeld.
I mean, yes, but without the success
Russell
and
Dalrymple
money.
Isn't here anymore.
Without the success and the money and all those things. So, Dalrymple. Exactly.
Russell Dalrymple.
He's out trying to help Greenpeace or something.
Yeah.
So, but they hated it. They absolutely hated it. And they offered to pay me to never show it to anybody. We have video footage of that meeting where the lady actually said, we want to pay you to never show this to anybody or ever tell anyone we had anything to do with it. Now, does that mean it was a bad show? I mean, there's no accounting for taste. But they did talk to their legal department, and apparently everyone, the 20 people they showed in Ontario and Montreal, Quebec, hated every second of it. But at the book launch, we showed a 16 or 17 minute...
some clips.
They loved it.
Yeah, they loved it.
They laughed at all the best parts. Everything where I thought they'd laugh, they did. So anyway, back before we got the contract for this, so we got 2 contracts. We did How to Fail at Accessibility, which is about accessibility for the disabled community, the community of people with disabilities. We did a documentary based on how hard it is to actually get around and live a decent, productive, thriving life in Newfoundland, because there's so many barriers to so many different people. So we did a documentary about that. It was not funny. It was just under the theme of how to fail. And so How to Fail at Documentary Filmmaking.
Yeah, that was more sarcastic than funny.
It was, yeah. And it was kind of just, we thought we were going to change the name, but when it became only one of our shows is going to get on TV, it became, well, I really like for this brand, How to Fail, to get out there. So that's how it happened. But just before we got the contract for this show, I was dealing with an organization who wanted to do a series of documentaries about the history of people with disabilities in the province. Now, as you can tell, we went on to make a show about that. But at the time, it was there was a committee, and I was brought in as the video producer, and as a person with a disability. So when they got approved for funding, and they were offering us, they wanted to do 12 episodes that were an hour long each. I wouldn't even look at that now. But back then, they wanted me to do
12 hours is
12
crazy.
hour-long interviews. And the interviews were going to be at least 3 hours, and they would have had to been cut down. And so we kind of dodged a bullet there. But at the time, it was better than what we were doing.
Yeah.
So
we had just started our production company.
Yeah. And so we were doing like promos for nonprofits and things like that. And so nothing. But we had been doing documentaries in Maine for a lot more money. But anyway, at the time it was like, okay, it's a paid gig. We're in Newfoundland, so let's just count our blessings. So they got this grant for $24,000, and they wanted me to make 12 hours of content for it, which at the time seemed like a really good deal. And so we're doing we're going through the process, and they're sending me like a list of people that they want interviewed. They didn't want me to do the interviews. They had, celebrity people that they wanted.
Had hosts.
They only wanted me to do camera, and that was fine. Like that's what the expertise was that I was bringing to the table. But I was kind of struggling with, I didn't feel like I had an equal voice at the table, even though I was on there, on the committee to make this project. And the money was, once they got money and funded, it kind of became, okay, now it's official. Everything counts now. Like, okay, well, it counted before. I was going to treat this, I would have done this for free. So the conversations are happening, and we're discussing how it's going to go and the production schedule and how we're going to arrange it. And we're going to have like interpreters come in and all these things. And it started to feel like there was somebody else on their committee who was also knew about video, which is the equivalent of someone saying, my nephew was taking a video class in high school, so he can probably come out and do this for $50. Like, all right, then you're going to get your $50 nephew quality video. Yeah. So there was a guy on a committee, and he was I was getting these questions that were well beyond the scope of what people that I was dealing with would have known. So it was like, oh, what kind of download, what do you call it? I don't know.
Bit rate and stuff.
What are the bit rates and what are and they wanted it in 4K. This is going back a few years.
This was before COVID.
Nobody's broadcasting in 4K, but
no.
They wanted it. And I was like, I'm going to have to buy all new cameras. Sorry, can you tell me who wants it in 4K?
Who are you again?
There's a guy on our committee that says that it should be. Like, maybe he should be doing the video. So there started to be like a little bit of whatever. And I was like, so this isn't actually related to the stuff that I was saying before. It's really more about having an opportunity and feeling like you have to take it. Yeah. Because you don't know if there's anything else going to come along. Right. So struggled.
That was a struggle with saying this isn't worth our time. The amount of money is not enough. Yeah. Like it's not the problems that we're already seeing, and we haven't even started yet. It's like that was a struggle early on in our career of like. Which we are still learning how to do. Like
we're navigating a lot better.
When do we say no? When do we say like our time would be better spent?
Doing nothing.
Exactly.
Literally doing nothing.
That's what I'm going to say.
Better than
nothing would be better.
Bad.
Like even if it's nothing, it would be better than this. But there probably won't be nothing. There'll be something. But saying no doesn't mean you're going to go bankrupt. Saying no means you're not in a miserable situation.
It's a hard position to be in. So I remember the kicker for me with those meetings, because we were gearing up, and it was like coming up on the pandemic times when we weren't really allowed to be around people and all those, there was lots of restrictions on how many people could be in a room and bubble talk conversations. I just remember there was the last conversation we had that was still kind of cordial was, the main person who kept telling me how much money they were going to give me said something along the lines of...
It's not a donation. Yeah. I'm going to work for this money.
A lot. Yeah. And I can do something you don't know how to do, so that makes me...
Right. You're not giving it to me.
Makes my skill kind of valuable.
Right.
And, I'm sure they had lots of other people that could take it over. So I just remember... that was... she said something along the lines of, and here I was, a person with a disability working on this. So I feel like I brought something to the table. But there was a conversation where she said, you stick to the video camera. We'll handle the disability conversation. And I just was like, that is probably the most insulting thing I've heard so far. So it was a tough it was a tough decision to make. Yep. It was $0 or $24,000 dealing with these people, and you get the money or you get nothing. And we had nothing there was nothing coming down the pipe. We had no prospects.
This is what we've talked about too. Like $24,000 sounds like friggin' fantastic. Give me $24,000.
But when you talk, going to be all at once.
Exactly.
And the heartbreak.
But you talk about value, like the $24,000 for, I don't know, drawing a picture of a stick person on a piece of paper. Great. Fantastic. $24,000 for making 12 hours of video content, shooting and editing is like, that's not nearly enough. Like, can you imagine going to whoever makes like a CBC or NBC show and saying like, we need you to make 12 shows, shoot them and edit them for $24,000. They'd be like, who are you and how'd you get in here?
We're talking about 6 years ago. This is not ancient times when cameras, had like actual flames for this flash. Like, this was, I just think I'm seriously putting this together now that we did go on to make a show about disability in the province.
Yeah. But and that even had a much better value. Like,
and where it was headed, like they were only going to put the videos in the archives. It was just like one of those librarian type
for posterity.
For posterity, it wasn't going to go anywhere. It wasn't going to promote. There was no exposure for me involved, and it was so struggled with that like we really, really struggled with that decision. But I remember it felt pretty good, even though we had literally nothing else to go to. And I would say 3 or 4 weeks later, we started conversations with Bill.
Yeah, and then we ended up talking about
with
value.
More money than I've ever seen.
More
in my
money and
entire life.
Less work. So it was like,
oh my God,
you know what I mean? It balanced out a hell of a lot.
But we had no idea that was on the horizon. None.
Yeah.
I mean, none. We thought, how am I just remember just crying and saying, we have nothing else. How can I possibly turn this down? And you were like, well, it feels it's making you cry. This is how bad it makes you feel to do this work. So there's no...
I think that's how people end up in miserable minimum wage jobs, because it's like, this is what I don't
think it's just a minimum wage thing. I think lots of people are happy with minimum wage in the job that they like doing. There are people who love their jobs, and if they can get by on that kind of money. It wasn't about the amount. It was about the
value. It's the value.
Disrespect and how people treat you.
That all factors in.
And how it feels. And I know that's probably why we're still without a car. Maybe we'd be doing better. Maybe I'd have an Escalade in the driveway now if I could just shove down my pride.
But I think it's been almost 6 months since our car broke down. I think that and even before that, like every time we've tried to make a decision in the past few years, it's like, how's it going to feel? Does it feel good? Yes, let's do it. Does it feel bad? Like, is it anything less than feeling good? Then let's change it or not do it at all. And it's like, sometimes
it's never, ever, ever that simple. It's really sometimes like, well, let's just say yes for now, and then we got to back out of it later. Or, this was a bad idea.
That's what I'm saying. We're still learning.
We're still working. We're still not like...
We're only babies.
We're not ready to call it, this feels bad, out. It's not like that at all. It's really still a big struggle.
Yeah.
But I don't know. That's kind of what's been going on in my mind, in my brain. Because we cleaned out the cupboards.
Yep.
Once again, and I'm still got, like, what is it I want to do? And I got to tell you, I'm already doing it. Hanging out with you guys, spending time with my kids, because I'm a mom first. That's really what I want to be doing. So if there are things that I could be doing professionally, that would mean I'm still with my family most of the time, or maybe that's part of it. Like maybe we do a show based on our family, or maybe there's puppets involved because we have puppets of all of us, but some sort of traveling thing where we are together, and that's the crux of it. Like if there was a way to, I don't know, do something of value that involves that. But then once you get outside that, it's like, well, I really like playing music. I really, really like performing. I love writing. Absolutely love writing. I would do that. I write every single day. And if there was a way to make money writing, I would want that, because that's something that I feel like that is a valuable thing that I don't feel guilty about taking time away from my family to write, because I feel I come out of a room where I'm writing.
It's the thing that feels good. I'm
in such a good mood after I write, because it's really like, that is really my outlet. Sometimes it turns into a song, sometimes it turns into a play, or a whatever, or a chapter for a book, and I really like that. Anyway, so this past few weeks, someone mentioned to me that they do a show outside of town, and I said, that sounds like fun.
A show like a stage show.
Yeah. And I said, a huge mistake, by the way. That sounds like fun. I say that all the time to everybody. Usually people don't listen. I say all kinds of things. But anyway, this person, and I did sincerely mean it. It was just kind of funny that he said, are you serious? And I went, yeah, I'd love to do that. That's something that I almost did last year. It was a dinner theater that we were going to do last year with a whole different organization. And the script was just outdated and offensive. And so I said, hey, I'll write a brand new script. And so I spent 2 months writing a new script. I went back to the organization, and they were like, who had promised to pay, and they were going to give us space and all these things. And then the head of the organization was like, turns out I could hire a person, a refugee, immigrant. There was a
government grant for refugees.
There was something about people that aren't, like, if someone here on a refugee, which is kind of a very unique situation.
Very specific.
Because there was so many people that came in here last year.
Which is great. We don't have any problems with refugees working. It was just the fact that there was like, that money we promised you, we're not going to give it to you. We're going to give it to somebody else.
So it was that they got a grant that would cover 70% of somebody's salary. And so the organization hired somebody that couldn't speak English it just died. It all died on the table. There was no, like, there was nothing. Like, we have a little bit of money and we found a way to save a whole bunch of money. And so we hired somebody and just took the job, and they're going to manage the building and the organization. And we're hoping that we can get a translator. And they couldn't speak a word of English. So the dinner theater idea last year was a dessert theater, actually. It just flopped, but I did write a whole script. So it has kind of tacked onto that. Like, it did kind of pick up where that left off. And so this person said, "Are you serious about being in the show?" And I said, "I mean, yeah, I guess. Yeah, I would." And within 3 days, I was in the out-of-town place doing an audition, and they've offered me the lead. But it's huge time commitment. I would be away for most of the summer during festival season when we do have a band. Now, do we have a bunch of stuff booked? I don't know.
We got some stuff booked.
Because I've been spending the last couple of weeks dealing with this. Like, should I do this? Should I do this? And so it's kind of funny to sit back and say, I don't want to work for minimum wage. It's a hard thing. Like, so you're going to make zero instead? Like, but the idea for me, knowing myself, the idea of going and working at a place where I'm standing next to a high school student and we're getting paid the exact same amount of money is, I can't wrap my head around that.
There's a lot of education and experience and that goes into that feeling of self-worth that you should have because you have all the education and experience.
And I think it's just money. It really is just money. And so if I can say that, certainly the organizations that have the money can also say the same thing because it's not coming out of their pocket individually. It really is. So you're going to make this much money per ticket, per sold out show, and government grants, and tips and bar tabs and all those things. You're going to make this much money, and I'm terrible at math. In that, I can't ignore it. So when I see that an organization is going to bring in hundreds of thousands of dollars and are going to pay student grants and minimum wage to performers, it's like, and it's going to take you away from your family for this many hours a day, and it's, so I've been struggling with that. Like, it's a beautiful idea. I'm like, if you had told me a few years ago someone's going to offer you the lead in a show, I would fall over dead.
It's great. It's
it would have been amazing.
Yeah.
But it's somehow, I'm in a place right now where it's like, so we're negotiating, and what that means is they're waiting me out to see if I'll take minimum wage. And so what's funny about it is that we've kind of developed this idea that, like, okay, well, maybe you should also hire Josh and put both of us in the show. And then maybe you should put us up in your community in an accommodation. And I'm going to do a shout out to Nateland right now because this is where I learned that. Even when you're first starting out, that is one of the milestones is like it's a paid gig, and I've got 5s and 5s in my wallet, in my phone case from gigs that I've gotten paid for. That's the next step. And then the next step after that is maybe it's maybe it's more than $100 to do a show. Then after that, it's like maybe it's out of town, and then it's you got to pay for your own gas and your own accommodations. And then the steps, there are a few steps in place, but believe it or not, there is enough money out in the universe to pay for entertainment and fly talent to your town.
Yeah.
And put them in a hotel.
Yeah, it happens.
Sometimes even a nice one.
Yeah.
It does happen. And I think as long as I keep myself locked into, do you have anything else? Are you being offered anything else right now? Like, well, no. But as long as I'm tied up in this project, I'm never going to get to the hotel and getting flown somewhere as the talent. Never. Because it's the recovery time that I'll need after destroying my self-confidence. And this is not an offense to high school students, but I'm 47 years old. I have a wall of degrees. I have done so many productions. I'm a professional musician. And it was like, by the way, can you make minimum wage? We're going to cut all this out. Because if I take the job, I'm going to be so embarrassed to see this episode. But it was, can you work for minimum wage as the lead? And can you be the music director for minimum wage? And so Josh and I went gangbusters, and we were like, yo, look, it'd be easier if you could also hire Josh, and it'd be easier if we could just stay up in the community. And then Josh comes to me, and we had a huge fight about it. He was like, I mean, Vickie, it's kind of a rural town. How are we going to get to the grocery store? Like, unless they give us a place next to the grocery store, and that's pretty far from the theater. And I was like, well, we'll just, no Ubers. Certainly no Instacart. So we're just going to walk up and down the road with bags of groceries, or like maybe we should get a little red wagon.
Yeah.
So while Josh was just changing the camera over, I said, I don't know if we should air this, Josh. I think I just talked myself out of a job. And Josh said,
I think you did that a few days ago.
Let's throw it to Josh. What have you observed? I mean, I'm flattered. I'm thrilled to be offered a lead. Yeah. I really am. Like, so I want to take that.
That's what I've been saying.
I want to let that in.
Like, take the, we're going to do a pros and cons list.
Sure.
Pros. You had somebody that was vouching for you.
Yeah.
Down there that was like, you should do this.
Yes.
And he went to the people and he told them she should be in this. She's great. You went down there, you did the audition. They loved you. They offered you the lead. Those are some big pros.
Yeah. And it was a funny part. I mean, and it was a young person part.
I thought
I had way too much gray hair to be cast as a young person, but it was a pretty fun part and I was born to play it. I was.
This was not somebody coming to you and saying, this isn't going to work.
No.
This was like, we want you to take the lead. Another pro, you yourself have been confident and used that confidence to say, this is how much I'm worth. And you've even said to these people a couple times, if this doesn't work, fine. Maybe we'll do something else in the future, but this is what I'm worth. Like, this is what I need to make this happen. And so that's so you got offered a lead, you got the confidence in yourself, you got people out there vouching for you and saying, that you're worth it.
So there was a couple. So this will hopefully, I don't know what's going to happen, but I'm a little afraid right now. Like, what if I take this job and they see this podcast? I mean, the chances of that happening right now are pretty slim.
Nobody listens to podcasts.
We're talking ourselves out of it, I know, but there was a couple things in the conversation that rubbed me the wrong way. One of them was, I knew for a fact, so minimum wage in Newfoundland, I think, is like $15 right now.
Yeah.
Okay. So someone that was in a show 2 years ago told me I made $20 an hour making this show. For 2 years ago. His minimum wage has gone up a few times. Okay. So they were making a little bit more than minimum wage 2 years ago. So the person in this meeting says, we pay $17 an hour, right? And I'm like, are you kidding me? Well, I know you paid $20 an hour 2 years ago. So
classic lowball.
Why are you starting at 17? Because that's not true. But anyway, but there was another part in the conversation where it was a very friendly conversation. And I would like to think that we have a good relationship with this person, but when we get to
negotiations,
and they're just wasting time, they should be looking for somebody else. But I think they believe that if they just wait long enough, this poor, pathetic little wretch who has family to support, who wants to bring her husband along, I think they think I'm going to give in and say, you know what, it's better than nothing. But it's not. It's not better than nothing. It's really...
Because nothing means we can write music, write another show, create things.
It controls my brain for the entire summer, which is festival season for bands. And I don't care if we only do 3 shows this year. But that's shows that are going to feel good, and it's going to feed that energy so that I write more songs, and I write more plays, and I write more books, and I'm with my children who are getting older. Thank God they're getting older. They're here. They're healthy. They're aging with us. And I only get so much time with them as young kids where they'll still play with us and talk to us. I would like to think we're going to have a relationship forever where we're always in the same place and, we just travel and have fun. But that might not happen. And just in case, I'm not willing to take that chance I'll just give up. We're in Newfoundland. We spent the last 6 months under snow and freezing temperatures, and it's finally nice. And I'm going to go out of town, leave my family here. And this is the art. Boo-hoo, you're getting offered a job. Poor artist. But if someone is looking me in the eye and I've walked to the coffee shop to meet them, let's just throw that out there, okay? I'm not fancy. I'm not pulling up in my Escalade. I'm not making billions of dollars or millions or even thousands. We're using points at Tim Hortons to get a free coffee to sit there and pretend we're, worth something. Because it's not about my financial worth. It's about my actual worth, my actual net worth and my value and what I bring to the table. And what I bring to the table is I'm going to be a positive influence. I'm going to give everything I have on that stage. So one of the questions in the interview was, will you clean dishes after your show's over? What? You want me to do the pre-show, be the musical director, direct a cast of 6 to do the pre-show, perform for 2 hours as the lead, and then clean people's dishes at the end for minimum wage. I need to watch this episode back because it sounds so ridiculous coming out of my mouth. I felt so guilty saying, this is crazy. This is crazy, right? So Where was I going with that? Oh, there was one point in the conversation where I have a degree in business. I have run shows. I've produced shows. I know numbers. And so I'm going, okay, so you got a room of 200 people, right? It's maggoty tourist season. Absolutely maggoty.
For those of you not from Newfoundland, that means a lot.
Yeah. Maggoty is what happens. So we have a codfish industry in Newfoundland that sustained us for hundreds and hundreds of years. And so what happens to a codfish when you leave it on the dock is it gets eaten by maggots, and it's just like the whole thing looks like it's moving.
Swarming.
So maggoty is what we call it. Maggoty based on what used to crawl over the fish. So the tourists in that area are maggoty in the summer. The money is flowing. They will buy literally anything with a Newfoundland flag on it. Sorry, Newfoundland & Labrador flag. So I know it's a big deal. We are also at the same time working on a song called Can't Stay Here, which is all about how nice we are to tourists and not nice to each other. So I don't know if that would line up with their tourism message and how many tourists. So
we might be on a different vibe.
But what do we have in common that would bring him into my life? I don't know. So this is the exact opposite. I told them what I bring to the table if they could pay me more. This is what I bring to the table if you don't. The truth. You can buy if you pay me enough, I will say this is a great show. And it would be. If we could
It would be great. Yeah.
If I was in it. If we were both in it. And if we were in that town with our family and we were going home to have supper with our family every night, and the kids were exploring a new community where we have lots of relatives and friends, it would be great. But it's like, well, would you be willing to... Anyway. So we're having this conversation, and I say, based on the capacity of the room, 200, possibly 300, and the tickets are $60, and you get a couple of $100,000 a year to operate, and this is a nonprofit, so you're not really supposed to be
taking
a profit. And so this person looked at me after I said the math, and I said, look, I know I'm expensive according to your rates, but I know I'm worth it. I know what I bring to the table because I bring a graphic designer husband. I bring all these marketing tools. We'll make the posters. We'll put everything out on the radio stations. We have a podcast. We will put asses in seats. And also will all the other people, because I know how to market and highlight all the other talent that's on the stage with me. We'll do videos and profiles of these other actors, and we'll bring people in, and we'll leverage TikTok and Instagram. And I'm saying all this stuff, and I came home and I went, why did I do that? Why wasn't I enough as an actress? Why wasn't I not here's how much I cost to act in your show. And if you want me to do music director, it's this much extra. And if you want marketing, you pay for Josh. And if you want Josh in the show, he gets the same amount because we're both managed by the same person.
We have the same management.
Josh Morgan is our manager. But so I did a little breakdown of the math, and I said, look, this is how much you're making. I know what you're bringing in. And then you have bar sales on top of it. I think, you're going to have to make a little bit of an investment because you don't have enough people in your town.
That's a good word, investment.
Yeah. Which grows your money.
It's an exciting investment opportunity.
There's not enough people in the town to cast it in the town. So you have to go outside, and people have to commute into your little tiny town and then risk their lives coming back a curvy highway where it's maggoty with moose. And the response to that, someone brought that up at the audition, and the response was, I don't think we've ever had a moose accident after the dinner theater. Not only do they not pay for gas or travel, but that was their response. Let's not do earlier shows. We've never had an accident with moose. Okay.
That's the only place I've seen moose on the highway on that highway.
I'm leading back to this comment. I'm telling them the math. I said, here's what I'm aware of. I've run businesses. I know what you're bringing in. And I know you need to invest something. So if you're getting student grants, you're paying $0 for these students who have no experience on stage. And you're putting them on stage next to people who could carry the show. And the response to that diatribe I just gave was, you know what, Vickie? And when someone uses my name with that tone, you know what, Vickie? We also need to pay the light bill. I'm sorry. I thought theater was to entertain people and grow the community of artists
community.
and put someone's art on stage and let people perform and do what they're good at and raise the vibration and of the community and the people who've come to see it and represent Newfoundland in a positive light. So they go off, go, man, them Newfoundlanders are something friggin' funny. Yes. And guess what they're making? Minimum wage. And guess how much they're making back at the nonprofit? A lot. We don't know what they actually make because they haven't reported their income for more than 15 years, and they keep getting government money. We are never going to air this episode. Ever, 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 right? Tell me, editing team, you're not going to air this, right? Thanks for listening to my rant.
This is actually live streaming.
Oh, good. God help us. We're dead. So this is what I'm struggling with, and I might come back next week and go, they came back and they're going to put us up in the community, and they agreed to pay me a reasonable wage, and they hired Josh to do the marketing. That could happen. I doubt it, because I feel like when you're getting that much resistance from somebody, and they're like, we have clients who are so eager and enthusiastic with us, and they love what we're doing. Mm-hmm. I just want more.
It's nice to have that contrast.
I want more of that. Yeah. I don't want to drag money at it. Like, look, if you want to keep your money, if you want to, this is not meant to offend students, or like, they're probably super talented. They probably are. If they're there, but like, even the students deserve more money.
Right.
Like, the minimum wage, I could go sling burgers at McDonald's for minimum wage. Actually, they don't even pay minimum, but they pay more.
Yeah.
So to be up there and like hone your craft and be an artist, and like, guess what? Most artists don't have jobs to fall back on. Because if I was available all summer, that means I'm unemployed, folks.
Right.
So the fact that I'm available, like, that means you probably could pay more to support them. Because what am I doing after September? I don't know. Going back to the snow and the depression and the seasonal affective disorder, and missing my kids because we can't go for walks because it's too damn cold in Newfoundland. And I wasted my whole summer on someone who's going, Vickie, we had to pay the light bill. Pay your light bill. Pay it 3 times over. I'll be in town. Maybe living in a tent where we don't even need heat for a little while in the new. But it's so mind-boggling. Like, there are people out there who are literally on airplanes right now being flown to corporate events or comedy shows or wherever, and they're going to be put up in a hotel, and they're going to get Ubers from the hotel to the airport, and from the hotel to their gig, and there's probably a meal, probably comped. Maybe they have to pay for the meal, but I think after you get all those things,
you're doing
so
all right.
I know I need to, like, what's my next little baby step? I can't leap forward to accommodations and travel, and, you know, can you give a job to my husband also, who's also insanely qualified?
I mean,
there's a lot of little steps, and I need to focus on the next thing, but I do know that taking a step backwards and taking a job that doesn't feel good, like, thank you for the lead offer. No, thank you for the minimum wage offer. Like, if you don't see my value, I should not have to walk to Tim Hortons and tell you what I'm worth. And I shouldn't have to say, I'll also do marketing, and I'll sweep your floors, and I'll do your dishes, and I'll...
Yeah. Everything else.
I have some real vulgar things I was just going to say there.
I know
and
what
I'm
everybody
stop
knows.
Yeah. You can probably imagine what I was going to say.
We've heard your songs.
Yeah. Have they really? Do you think?
I think so.
People know I'm a musician?
It's on the Purple Square CD that we have there. So we're making good choices.
Anyway.
We're making choices that feel good.
Why? Let's talk about that for just a second. Why? What is the ultimate goal? What do you think happens when you do things that feel good?
You get more stuff in your life that feels good.
So you think good feelings beget more good feelings?
I think so.
That's a whole phrase, like violence begets violence.
Sure.
But I think I think that has to apply. Law of attraction has to apply to everything. Yeah. So if you're in loving relationships, you get more loving relationships. If you hate yourself, you're going to attract people into your life that also hate you. Or I don't think I have value. Maybe that's it. Maybe there's just a little bit of leftover. Hey, remember when you didn't like yourself? How about that minimum wage?
Crud.
How about that minimum wage, lady? Does that sound pretty good to you? Better than what you're making now? Haven't starved to death yet. Life has a way of working out, and we get enough, like, we have not started. It just seemed like, I don't know, there was almost like a little flash of, this could be a really good thing. Like, oh God, based on nothing. There's nothing there to say. Like, congratulations, you have good taste for picking me. But there was 3 people to pick from, and, you know, they cut one lady because she has a job. And they were afraid she wouldn't... we can never air this. Anyway.
I didn't even have to mention the con side of the pros and cons list.
What was the cons? All that
other stuff.
So I will say that I know I recommend Nateland a lot because I think it's very funny and very soothing to me, but there's so much life advice and career advice in there. And like, the benefit of starting from the very beginning is that you hear these people sitting around this table who during the pandemic started a podcast on a whim. I don't know if it was a whim. It seemed like a whim. Mm-hmm. They didn't know what structure the show was going to be. So it evolves as the episodes go on, but you can see all 3. Nate was already huge. But you can see Brian Bates like come up, and the tour dates are just popping and popping and popping. And he's like, every show he's talking about, I did this gig, I traveled to this place, whatever. Aaron Weber is just exploding. And so he just put his first special on, he just did his first stand-up special.
Yeah.
So like he is growing exponentially. And then they brought Dusty Slay in at episode 1. I think Dusty already had like a pretty crazy, impressive, successful career.
Yeah,
anyway.
and another podcast.
Yeah.
Which is hilarious.
I think he might have 2 others. But watching their careers and watching Nate say, I've done this, but I really want to do that. Or like when he talks about the show that didn't get made, the 2 pilots that didn't get picked up. And it's like, well, he kept going. He still dreams about it, according to him. I'm just paraphrasing. But seeing that, like, the advice that he gives is, when I was barking on the street in New York, I wanted to be the person on the door. When I was at the door in New York, I wanted to be the person that
the host
that got some time. When I was on the door, like I wanted to be the person that wasn't going to get bumped if a celebrity showed up. And like it's almost like 10 feet away or 5 feet away. Like I'm on the street. I want to get to the door. I want to get to that. Like,
taking steps.
And he talks about you can't get to headlining and bumping other people when you're barking on the street.
Right.
And so I love that. And I find it very inspiring. So anyway, that leads into our comment section.
Are we doing comments?
We're doing comments because I think I don't know. Is that a good lead in?
Let's do some comments.
We had a couple of reviews that directly relate to this because they talked about Nateland, which I thought is like just beautiful. So negative or positive first?
Let's do the negative and work our way into the positive.
Okay. Love the podcast. Have to tell you, a bit brokenhearted about Nate B. She called him Nick, but she meant I didn't figure. I wasn't offended by this at first because
you didn't know who you were talking about.
Yeah. So my YouTube feed brought up an episode of Joe Rogan that he headlined. It was kind of a downer for me. Rogan is a right-wing Trumpite. Can't get past that right now. Also, I tried a number of his podcasts. Guy talk. At times, really flirting with sexist comments. Just stopping themselves. Seemed out of character with his routines. I remember a comment you made about a shock jock type of guest he had on, LOL. He picks the guests and the audiences he wants to reach, no?
Mm-hmm.
As I said, really sad, but not clicking on NB at this time. Glad to have your show. How would Nate Pergetzi and Aaron Weber and Dusty Slay and Brian Bates respond to this? I think Brian would say, thank you for listening. I reached out to her. I got her home address, and I sent her a gift card and a thank you basket. What would the rest of the guys say? As professionals, for someone listening to our podcast, what would they say?
I think it would be somewhere along the lines of, we're having a good time and not hurting anybody, and we're making people. Our goal is to make people laugh and feel good and be happy.
So if somebody wrote to Nateland and said, "Man, Ted Lasso sucked. That was bull." We love Ted Lasso and we listened to the recommendation and we went and watched. But I think it's good to mention.
I think it'd be. I'm sorry you didn't like that. Thanks for listening to our show.
Do you think she's still listening?
I guess we'll find out.
I doubt it. I would imagine after the passive aggressive episode I did a couple of weeks ago where I hedged around this, but this is really what it comes down to. I'm going to recommend Nateland because I believe in what he's saying. And I'm not offended by anything. I don't know if it's because I grew up around a bunch of brothers who were, or whatever. I don't know if it has anything to do with that. I find them funny. I don't find them offensive.
Very benign.
I don't find them sexist, and I do find it very inspiring where I am in my life right now. And also, I don't know. I'm not responsible for... I don't know why somebody would write that to me. Like, is this positive? How could I use this?
I think it goes along the lines of don't yuck somebody's yum. It's not hurting anybody. I'm not forcing you to eat pickles. Yeah. I don't know. That's probably not the same thing.
That's a good one. If you don't like... But I think it's really... What do I do with that? Like, is this meant to be encouraging?
You need to reevaluate your likes.
No, I don't. I would question, why would somebody send that to me?
That's what I mean. You need to. I think that's the point.
I'm taking it too personal.
Idea.
And
it's personal. It went directly to you.
I think there's some value also in things like when there's been positive. There's been Sorsagor wrote to the Nateland podcast really early on and was like, "That's it. I'm never listening to this again." And I just remember how many times Nate would come back to it. I just can't believe And it was like so it's normal to be offended and hurt when you're putting something out creatively that someone criticizes.
Yeah.
Like. My friend Paul gets in touch with me about every second week. Shout out to Paul. I love this man beyond words. He writes to me every couple of weeks and says, great podcast. I love Nate too. And then he sends me clips when Nate comes across his newsfeed. He sends me little
thinking of you clips.
He sends me these little comedy clips of Nate from like archives, like stuff that shows up in his feed, and it's stuff that I haven't seen before, and it's just my love language. And I think people get that. So what's the opposite? Someone writing to me and saying, I've heard you talk for 20 episodes. That's 40 hours about where you are with your life, how things are going, and this is a point of light for you. I'm going to shit on that. Didn't like him. Why do you like him? Yeah. I
think that's a good lead into the first comment, or the comment before that.
Okay, we have a really positive comment that's also related to Nateland, and I just want to say that you need to tune in if you're listening to this and you're like starting to get sleepy or whatever. You have to tune in for the next few weeks. We have two guests from Tennessee on the podcast over the next couple of weeks, and I'm not going to say who they are, but you have got to tune in. I screamed today. I jumped around. I was grabbing Josh's neck. I almost took his head right off his shoulders. It was, you're not even.
We got some pretty exciting shows coming up.
Yeah, it's going to be awesome. So just dream big, little girl. Anything is possible. And this idea of collaborating with people and reaching out, like if you want to do a podcast, like if you do ChatGPT or you go to any of those podcasts, for beginner things, like where there's like podcasting 101
and
or
podcast groups and
10
stuff.
tips for podcasting, or the podcast groups on Facebook. The advice is usually make good content, try to have good sound, like that's important, and like lots of background noise is going to be distracting. And the third one is try collaborating with other podcasts, try to be a guest on other podcasts and have people on yours so that you can access other people's audiences.
Right.
That feels yucky to me because that feels like cold calls.
Well, and also I think for the past 20 weeks, it's been like, well, we don't know any other podcasters and we don't really have a format for guests right now. But as our podcast has evolved, it's like, we're talking about self-publishing and marketing. Oh, here's a person that's doing marketing and self-publishing and she wants to be a part of it. And we're sharing we're sharing the time, the airspace. Yep. So I think it has developed for us into like from a place of like, we can't do that or we don't do that to maybe this is something that could work for us. And we've got, so for the next couple of weeks, we're going to have some pretty fantastic awesome guests. Yeah.
And so I know the thing that started with Nicole, like it was literally the same way the podcast started. It was an idea. And then you were like, well, I'll go set up the camera just to see what it would look like down the basement. And then it was, hey, Vickie, why don't you come just sit in front and see what the shot looks like? Well, we're already here. We already pressed record. Let's go with it. And as much as I get little clenches of, we shouldn't be talking about this. This is too revealing. This is too vulnerable. This is not how you get clients. This is podcasting. I saw a clip. Amy Poehler has a brand new podcast. I adore her. She has a book called Yes, Please.
Yes, Please.
As a woman, I feel like it spoke to my core, the soul, the middle of me, whatever that is, where all the guts and Slim Jims are. She has this advice for getting ahead and for being successful and liking yourself. And she has this concept called leaning back. So all the Dale Carnegie stuff and all the marketing, all the gurus will say lean in and like lean into your vulnerability, lean in. Yep. Amy Poehler talks about leaning back. When she said when she feels like, I should quote it, I should get the direct quote from the book, but I just remember the concept was when you start to feel tension in a room, and you feel like they're not going to treat you the way you deserve to be treated. When
it starts to turn in that direction.
You don't lean in. You don't lean in and fight them. You lean back. And she also gave me, I don't know Amy Poehler, but one of these days, my God, I'd love to be on her podcast. Oh, I don't. And you know what? We met Kristen Shaw here in St. John's one time.
True.
So Amy Poehler is like, next on the girl comic list. She has in her book, she talked about when somebody's really ignorant to you, the best way to disarm and turn the conversation is to say, I think what you meant to say, and man, have I gotten told off. It infuriates people. It absolutely, people blow their stack because
so it's essentially what I would have preferred to hear just now. You turn that into, I think what you meant to say was, thank you for your hard work. Well, normally I would respond with a fight, I can't believe you just said that to me, but it's, so like, for example, I don't know, this might be too much. I don't know what you're going to say. Again, You have to.
You know what? This must be. Is this what your life is like all the
Maybe
time?
we'll get some little cue cards and you can just write something down and just show it to me. And I'll be like, okay.
Well, if I started telling the story and you were like,
slide it across the table
much.
like in a negotiation. Should I talk about this? I'm sure it's fine. It's our podcast. We can talk about whatever the fuck we want.
That's true. God damn. We're dead. Okay, let me have some water. I should just pour this right over my face. Okay. Here's an example of the advice I took from Amy Poehler's book, Yes Please. She said, when somebody's being ignorant, you write back and say, or you say back to them, I think what you meant to say was thank you. That's the line, okay? That's what she said in the book, and it has changed my life. So a few years back, there was a musician coming to town, and I had never heard of him, but he was going to do a show at the Ship. So we should give you a cue card to go, nope, too much, Vickie, too much. So there was someone coming to town doing a show, and he was going to go to the Ship, and the email came in from a radio station. Who would like to go interview this Eamon McGraw at the Ship tonight for the
fantastic singer-songwriter from Ontario.
Brilliant.
So
I
good.
wouldn't have known
Super nice guy.
I had never met him before in my life.
Yeah, we didn't know him.
Didn't know anything about him. But the question was, who would like to go interview him for the station? And at the time, we were in between shows. We had done the Mulberry Creek Hour for a little while as a recorded show, sending it in. Then for a long time, we were doing the Mulberry Creek Hour live. We started the live show after this incident.
Yeah, it was later.
It all worked out. But at the time, this person had sent out who would like to interview Eamon McGraw. And I was like, I don't know who that is. I mean, it was just, I guess I was just left on an email list or something like that. Yeah. Or as a previous host or something. Anyway, I believe in serendipity, and I believe in that law of attraction of there's no mistakes, there's no coincidences, it's meant for you. So when I looked this person up, it said, which are magic words to Vickie, special appearance tonight, opening for Eamon McGraw, is Joel Thomas Hines. And I just about peed in my pants. I was like, I love him.
We're a fan.
So if I can go down and interview Eamon, I will stick around for the show to see Joel. The tickets were like $10. I bought a ticket.
Not a big deal.
I bought a ticket.
Yeah.
Anyway, so I get in touch with Eamon because he's given his contact information. I get in touch with him, and I mean, it was instant. We clicked instantly.
Super nice guy.
So within 10 minutes, he texted, we texted back and forth, and we arranged, I was going to start a brand new show called East Coast Flavor. I went down and I met him at the Battery Cafe. I did an interview. I brought a camera crew with me. We did a beautiful interview down at the where he was going to perform. He was going to perform at the Ship later that night. But we went down, we got footage of him down at the St. John's Harbor, standing on the rocks, standing on a wharf. He performed a song on the wharf for us. It was beautiful.
I edited it into a 8-minute clip for sizzle reel. It was beautiful.
So I'm on my way down to meet Eamon down on the wharf, and I've got a camera person with me, a brilliant director. So we're on our way. I had a car back then, in transit to go meet Eamon. Okay, we've connected. He's excited about the show that night. And so I say, look, this is the best way I can promote it. Let me put together a clip. Was it the next day of the show or later, or that next night?
It was that night.
So I don't know. So the radio station didn't want anything for that day. It was a long game kind of situation. So my plan was to shoot the little video, and then I would have audio, and I was going to restart the radio show. I was going to submit a segment to the radio show, just like they wanted. Okay, that was the plan. Good intentions. I did want to go down to see Joel, 100%. But I got in touch with the musician who wanted the coverage and wanted the exposure. And I was more than happy to do it. It was my idea to go down and do an interview with him.
Yep.
To go down and bring video, and then I could turn it into something else and we could post it online. So I go down and I get this call on the way. So the person that had sent the email calls me and starts screaming, like, why did you take this interview? I just found out you don't have a radio show anymore. Mm-hmm. And I was like, well, what you don't know, though, is that I'm going to restart the radio show because I wanted to go meet this musician.
But you're yelling for some reason.
So she's yelling and saying, I think it might have been over email in all caps. I just feel like there was a lot of yelling.
It felt like yelling.
The response was, but you don't have a show right now. Why did you take this gig? I could have sent somebody else or done it myself. And I was like, And she said something like, these musicians are only making blah, blah, blah money, and you're using up a media pass. And I was like, well, what you don't know is I bought a ticket because I support musicians. And what you also don't know is I have talked to Eamon, and he is thrilled with the coverage I'm giving him. Yeah. He loves this. I'm not an asshole, but you're talking to me like I'm an asshole. And I really went full on, teeth out, claws out. And I just went, you know what? I think... because it was already too late for her to do it herself at that point.
Sure.
And there was no one else volunteering.
And you were doing it.
And I was doing it. And Eamon loved it.
And you had already done a lot.
We're still in touch. When I got that gig with Joel, Eamon was the first person... Alan was the first person I messaged. But Eamon was like in the top 5. He was on the list. He was on the list, and he was so excited for me. So I just went, this is making me very angry, and I'm on my way to an interview, and I'm going to try to bring somebody else's light out on an interview. So I need to regroup here. So I wrote back and said, I think what you meant to say was thank you for taking your time to go do this interview and promote someone in our industry. She's also a musician. I think that's what you meant to say. Well, she lost her fucking mind. And I just swiped left on that. Is that what you call it? When you just ignore it?
You swipe some way.
I got back to work. But then... I could have communicated better. I thought I did. I thought I explained, like, I know I don't have a show right now, but I'm going to restart, and I'm going to put this interview, and I'm going to make sure the musician. But I was a little, maybe I didn't come across as nice as I'm saying it right now, because I'm in a safe room right now.
Sure.
We did restart the radio show, and we started doing it live, and it went on for 1.5 years, and I ran into her at the radio station, and we connected and bonded, and like, you know, oh my God, like, we're fine now. But after that incident... I got a very long email from the station manager on Monday morning. I understand that you were very rude and disrespectful to this person at the station. And I just wanted to let you know there's a code of conduct for volunteers. And I didn't get angry. I pulled an Amy Poehler. I wrote back to him and I said, I think what you meant to say was thank you for your time. And thank you for the hours you've put on our station. And thank you for the job you did with this musician who was touring and trusted us with his coverage. Also, I believe there's some codes of conduct in the book that also say that volunteers are to be treated with respect and not screamed at during interviews
two-way street
that they've been sent to. I got a very apologetic letter back from the station manager who said, I understand both your feelings. I mean, he dealt with it like he was dealing with 2 angry cats. He was like, you know, I understand. You're both very upset. I believe things were said on both sides, and we just want to get past this and move on. And we did. We did another show. I've connected. She was actually... Anyway, doesn't matter. Don't need to go any further with it. You'd have to look up the radio station to figure out who I'm talking about. Joel knows who I'm talking about. I don't know if he knows that story, but I did get to see Joel, and it was from 20 feet away, and he's brilliant. And it just made me love him so much more. And I did get to meet Eamon, and we're still friends. And guess what? I also bought his book. Yeah. And we kept in touch. Like, you know, it became a great relationship. But in the beginning, I was getting screamed at while trying to do that thing. And anyway, what was my point? Did I have a point?
You said, I think what you meant to
Leaning
say.
In.
I think what you meant to say.
I think what you meant to say. And I've used that a few times where people are just going aboard me and saying, you're this and you're that and you're that. And like, I think you meant to say thank you for the cake. Well, I have no reference for that. I'm making that up. But it's, I think you meant to say this. And sometimes it just diffuses the situation. And it can really make somebody very, very angry. Because you're pointing out, you know, did you forget
But it also is a good way to change the trajectory of this conversation.
Did you forget that I'm a person you like?
Yeah.
And that we're trying to support each other. And that, you know, there are people in your family who are like sisters to me. And if they knew that you cut me down like this in a private message, like, is this where we are? Is this what we want? Because the boats don't sink because of the water on the outside of them. They sink because of the water that gets in. And so when you have a friend who is like drilling a hole in the boat and the water is just pouring in and you're sinking, and it's like, what are you doing?
Yeah.
Like, how do you...
Yeah. Yeah. I think what you meant to say.
I think what you meant to say. I'm just going to skip over. Love the podcast, ... Glad to have your show.
Oh, that's really nice.
Isn't that
that's
nice?
A lovely comment.
I feel really ambivalent and shitty about... But, like, I don't know. That's what podcasts are for, right?
Yeah. What about the other one?
And now I'm afraid, like, what if people hear it and they've... I hate that feeling. Why? Like, the cannonball came over onto my ship. I wasn't doing a thing. Like, I was minding my own business. I was just minding my own business. What was that? What TV show was that from? Well, I think it was Will Smith. I was just minding my own business. Just someone came in yelling. Anyway, that's a bad example because Will Smith ended up being very aggressive with somebody who didn't deserve it. But anyway.
There's another Nate Land related comment from this.
I'm all fired up now. I'm totally out of my head, and I'm just like, what are you doing? This will never air. You're going to cut all this out, right?
Yeah, this will be a 5-minute podcast. It'll be welcome to the podcast and have a good week.
I think what I'd love to share is that when you're doing a podcast, it's going to be real, and some of it might not be clippable. Some of it is not for the highlight reel. Some of it is like you get to listen. You get this beef when you listen to the whole thing. Yeah. People that are. I had a guy ask me the other day if he could be on the podcast, and it was like, you, what? Like, he's asked to be on every radio show I've had, and it was like, can you name one thing I've done?
Read the room, buddy.
God, just. So I told him he should do his own podcast, and I mean it. He should do his own podcast.
Yeah. Everybody should.
I'd listen to it. I think there's
maybe not
so much.
Everybody.
No, I do think everybody deserves to have their own podcast, and I would be more than happy to help with editing and producing and that. Like, I really do believe that, because this is so good for me, and it's like I'm talking to a friend, and also we're also sharing these deep, dark, intimate details of like, oh my God, if Joel hears that, he's gonna think, he's gonna know that I would literally do anything to see him. And I would take that kind of abuse from somebody just to see him, and I would do it again in a heartbeat, and it was absolutely worth it because I heard more of his songs that night, and I got a new friend in Eamon McGraw.
That's right.
And now I'm friends with Joel. So, and that's it. It works out. It really works out. The people that you're meant to be friends with, people weed themselves out.
That's right.
And maybe that's all it is. Or maybe there's a big, long, hard conversation coming where it's like, I heard that on your podcast. I kept listening. I didn't realize you were talking about me. But it sounded like my email. Anyway. And you hit, as our friend Sarah would say, once they hit send, it's your story.
That's right.
Anyway. Do you want to hear this last? So we'll probably finish up on these last two. How much time do we have?
Yeah. I mean, we're up to an hour and a half so far.
Okay. So we do have a comment. Love the podcast this week. Your stories are awesome to listen to as well. LOL.
That was from the Religious Studies podcast episode.
Yes. Yeah. So that one might be sarcastic.
That was somebody that has a similar, I think, religious upbringing to us. In that,
so you have some more context with this one?
Okay, he enjoyed the stories because he connected to them.
And that's one of those episodes that we're like, should we even put this out?
I know, right?
Like, should we just re-record the whole thing? And I feel like when we're being our real selves, we're meeting real people that are really connected.
People in the same place.
That's why I don't totally understand how are these other people. I guess I just don't really understand law of attraction enough yet. That it's like, how do these other people get in? And I think it's when you cast a wide net. You're also going to get some
some sculpins.
When people use sculpins, but when people are cleaning codfish, when they cut the tail and cut the guts out and all that stuff, they scoop it all to the side, and that's called offal, OFFAL. And that's the stuff that usually ends up in a big pile, and you get all the maggots on it. So that's the offal. So I don't know why I'm calling it that, because it really is casting the wide net and getting stuff that you don't want in there.
Yeah.
But I think part of it is you pick out what you want, and then you push the rest of the offal to the side.
Yeah.
And you take the fillets and the stuff that's delicious. You take the good stuff, and you just move on. And, if there's a mistake made and you cut too big of a piece off, or you overstepped, or you probably should have dealt with this just by responding directly to the message, maybe. But I think there are other people that are going to listen to that and go, yeah, I totally get that. And I hope the person who wrote that knows we love her. And her partner. We do. It was painful. Anyway. Thank you for the comment about liking our stories. I hope you enjoyed these stories, and I'm sure there'll be more, because it's just a gift that keeps on giving. This personality attracts this sort of experience, and
over the next couple of weeks, we might be talking more about marketing and publishing than we did on this episode.
We talked about all those things.
That's true, yeah.
I think it's all at the core of it. It's what do we want people to know about us? And it's like, I want you to know that if you are unappreciative and only seeing a negative in me, you're not going to get the best out of me.
That's right.
And maybe that's like an indicator, like, or maybe, I don't know. Anyway, this is another comment. This was a review left on the Facebook page.
Love it.
Great podcast. Couldn't agree more.
Bingo. Off to a good start.
This couple's energy is warm and welcoming. You probably didn't hear this episode yet. It's like we're all hanging out and discussing life. I would love that. I enjoy the wide variety of topics discussed, especially the stories of personal survival, advice on self-publishing, and stories of living in Newfoundland. Highly recommend. I didn't write this, I swear. This is directly from this comment. If this is an edit, you ready for this? I got to get polished up here because this is a good clip.
Yes, go.
If you like the Nateland podcast, check this out. You will enjoy this.
That might just be a clip in itself. I'll just blow up that comment really big.
I mean, come on. I'm like...
Come on.
Come on. Really? If I were to go out and pay for marketing, I would ask people to say exactly that.
That's right.
That's music to my ears. I love that. So thank you for that review. And I don't know. I worry about that sometimes. Like, my God, if they ever found this podcast, would they be like, oh, they say swear words? But I feel like the people that they surround themselves with are just living their best life.
Yeah.
I think that's what they all have
in
in
common.
common.
Feels good and stuff we like, stuff we live by.
And, the podcast is growing. There's lots more views on the clips that you're putting out and a lot more listeners on all the different platforms. And I saw a big jump. We saw a big jump last week after Nicole's episode because she shared it with her thousands. She has thousands of followers on different platforms, and she shared it on all of them.
Yep.
And shared a clip, and there's links on there too. Like, so that's a symbiotic relationship.
That's
and
right.
I'm realizing too, I have to step back a little bit. Eamon shared our stuff. Eamon was a person who absolutely understood the assignment.
She's maybe in a funny pose. It looks like she's peeing on the carpet, but she's actually just getting ready to pounce on Daisy.
Are you sure?
Yeah.
Okay.
She wasn't actually.
So it hasn't been all the musicians that didn't understand. Eamon was a person who was a touring musician. Brilliant. His book is called, I think, Road Stories. You should check that out. It's really great. It's a great little story. Great little book. And he has lots of albums and lots of merch, and he's traveling. He goes everywhere. Definitely understood that the symbiotic relationships are, it gets you from place to place. It books you. Like I mean, we started talking about opening for Eamon or having Eamon here with us or like going, it's stuff's in the works. Yep. I mean, it's out to the universe. The right people find each other, and it's a pretty magic thing when it happens.
Yeah.
And I think there's some value in cutting through the awful and saying, this was kind of a shitty thing that happened, and then you move on. Yeah. I think overall, it's a pretty positive. We're having pretty positive conversations. Things are evolving and things are moving very, very quickly. The podcast is growing. We're getting lots of really good feedback. And again, we've got 3 guests. 4 really. We just have 2 that we're doing.
3 episodes.
We're 2 interviews at the same time. But we got some pretty exciting stuff coming up over the next few weeks. I'm very excited. Again, this podcast is not a money-making venture. We don't have sponsors coming on, paying salaries or, it's right now, it's a labor of love. But my intention with this podcast is to advance what we want to do.
Right.
Whether it's someone going and buying the books and leaving a good review, which is so... I haven't sold a copy of this book. This is a little confession here. I checked my sales the other day. I'm always afraid to check because people say they're going to buy it and then they don't. So I don't want to check and find out for sure. But during Self Publishing Month, which was October,
right,
there were some sales.
Yep.
Not a lot, but some. There's been 0.
No, that's not 100% true.
On Amazon, there has been 0 sales.
On Amazon.
So on Amazon,
we did sell the whole package at the show.
There's been in person.
Yeah.
But there's the Audible, there's Kindle, and there's Amazon. Now, I know there's some warriors out there who are boycotting Amazon, and way to go. Congratulations. You are really hurting Amazon.
Yeah.
Yeah. Yeah. Let's leave that. ...
Mm-hmm.
But 0 sales. So where's my point? Did I have a point for that?
I don't know where you were going with that. This is a labor of love. We don't get paid for this.
That's how we would make money, would be booking a show or coming on and whatever. It's like some kind of a barter deal or something like that, or, letting people know about it, which is you can't pay for that kind of advertising. We can do boosted posts and we can pay for Google ads and things like that, but it doesn't compare to someone saying to a friend, you should check out this podcast. And maybe they're embarrassed that they're listening to this podcast. Maybe they don't want to tell anybody. Maybe because it's like, I feel like we're having a private conversation between us. Maybe it'd be like, but if I tell you that I like this, people might judge you based on what they say on their podcast, much like someone came back and said, I'm holding you responsible.
We could be somebody's dirty little secret.
I'm holding you responsible for things that somebody says on their podcast. So now I'm going to say shit things to you. So, but on my podcast, I know what we say. These are things that I talk about. Alan Doyle has this line from the first time his first book came out. He said something like, these are not stories, because I interviewed him way back when he was touring through Maine. And I said, some of these stories were really personal. And he said, none of these stories are secret. These are stories that I would tell in a pub. And I tell them all the time, like over and over again, and I just wrote them down this time. So I feel like the podcast is very much that. Yeah. Yes, if I slept on it, would I do it again? Maybe not tomorrow. Like, I probably wouldn't tell the exact same stories tomorrow, but I would tell them next week.
Yeah.
When I got comfortable and, like, came back to liking myself enough to say, your story matters, even mine. It's okay to share who you really are. And people who get it are really going to get it.
Yeah.
And people who don't are not your people. Like, I think that's just good. It's good guiding principles. And I get scared a lot. And I talk myself out of stuff and I second guess. And sometimes when I hand over the videos to you and I'm like going, watching you out of the corner of my eye going, he's not going to put that in, is he? And then it's usually like the worst possible clips you could think of that you post. And they're
best.
Well, they're the things that I'm most scared of people seeing. And but you just put it out there and it's like, so you thought that was funny? And people are responding to it and, it's going really great. So I think it's not an easy thing. Self-publishing also not an easy thing. And I realized that the other day when I was talking to Nicole. We had a conversation earlier this week and we were talking about the actual process of self-publishing. Mm-hmm. And so you can self-publish your book for $0. You can do it and it costs you nothing. Does it cost you time and stress and anxiety and frustration? A lot.
Which has a value.
If you put a price on your time, it would, but people don't pay themselves for the work that they put in. You can self-publish absolutely for free. You can design your own cover. You can write your own manuscript and format it and edit and put it on KDP and publish your paperback for $0. The drafts that you can order, like your draft copies, to have a look through it to make sure everything's in place, which I recommend, are at cost. So if your book costs $5 to print, you can order an author copy plus maybe $1 shipping. You can get your draft copies and you pay for that. But then you can, that's it. That's the cost. You can leave your book. You can never order a draft if you don't want to. You can put your book on Amazon, walk away, and hope that people buy it. Yeah. And you're done. You can walk away.
They might love it.
Is it an easy thing to do to format a book and get it all lined up and put No, it's not. It's not. But do you have freedom? Yes. So it's really a choice of, do I want to learn how to do this thing all by myself?
Right.
And if you have no money, yes, do it. Yeah. You have access to it. Is it easy? No. But can you do it? 100% you can do it. It's like making documentaries and all those things. Like, you can find some camera to tell your story. You can find, there are free apps that you can use. I mean, is it going to be like award-winning? I don't know.
Maybe.
It could be. Because if it's a compelling story, people have a way of gravitating to real stories.
Yep. And
I read something the other day, I think it was some seminar I went to, and someone said the closer you get to your authentic self, the more people are going to be attracted to it.
That's right.
Because they connect on a real level, which is more vulnerable and it's a little scary. But I think that needs to be said about self-publishing. It's not an easy road. It is a lot of learning and a lot of there's a few little, and I have a book coming out about it. It'll walk you through all the steps.
Coming out soon.
And it's very honest in that it is really hard. Formatting is a pain in the ass. Microsoft Word is invented by, what's the word? Sadists. But it's a part of it. And if you want your book to look decent, the formatting is a part. But it doesn't need to be. Like, sometimes you can tell your story, even if you're doing a podcast and you got background noise or kids upstairs making noise. If your content is real and authentic, some of it transcends over whether it's formatted well or where there's background noise or your mics are great or whatever, or the video is fuzzy or lots of those things. Like, it's worth trying and it doesn't need to be polished. And there are people I know, you have a name for them. People who...
Prescriptivists?
Is that the word?
What do you mean?
It's people who will jump into tech stuff, like tech knowledge and tech language. If you start talking about, how do I record my first podcast? And they just jump on something.
Like gatekeepers.
Yeah, well, if it's not this megahertz and if it's not this bit rate, and they talk so technical that you go, I guess I can't. But I find folks who are, I don't want to paint with a big massive brush or anything here, but it seems like they would be the last people I'd listen to.
100%.
For I wouldn't want to hear that guy's podcast or that girl's podcast who is talking about tech stuff and trying to keep other people out of it,
away
because
from it,
that's probably not my vibe.
Yeah.
But it is hard. It's not for the faint of heart, but it is for the people who. I find it absolutely fascinating when people have just been through it and come out the other side. Like, I want to hear how they did it.
Exactly.
And everybody that's got a story to tell, and everybody's got at least one book in them. I think everybody's got a few episodes of a podcast in there too.
Yeah, right.
And maybe it doesn't go anywhere. Maybe you start 5 different podcasts, but I'd like to hear them. Even the people that get on my nerves, I'd love to hear their podcasts.
So get in touch with us. We'll tell you how we make our podcast. Or go
look it up. You go look on Pinterest. There's a whole bunch of guides there for free where it says just sit down with your microphone or sit down with your phone or tape recorder. I mean, I don't know. You go to Long McQuaid and get a handheld recorder that has really good quality for
those of you that aren't in Canada, Long and McQuaid is like Guitar Center but Canadian.
Can you get stuff from Guitar Center or rent it?
That's a good question. I never tried.
I think if you want a recording device bad enough, you'll either find it on the side of the road or on Marketplace on Facebook or somewhere. The universe provides what you need. So say it out loud. Write it down. I wish I had a recorder to start my podcast. And you can figure out how to do editing.
And listen,
all of it's within reach. If we can learn it, anybody can, because it's just out there for people to do. Anyway, vote for podcasts.
The next couple weeks, we're going to have some really fun guests, and we're going to be switching up the format a little bit, sort of like we did last week. But I think it's going to be a lot of fun. So please come back next week.
It'll still be us.
It'll still be us.
It'll still be us. Yep.
Us plus.
I think we might do like a split screen kind of thing where there's
we're going to figure it out.
I think we're going to have you in on the interviews also.
We're going to figure it out.
I like the idea of putting somebody on the couch.
Yeah, we have all this space right here. What if we put if we do a Zoom interview with somebody, what if we just put like a big screen in the middle here?
Why wouldn't you?
That's perfect.
That would be interesting editing.
There's nothing wrong with that
But
idea.
I think you should be in on the interviews because you bring a lot to it. And I know when we did a radio show, Josh would step back and produce, and it would just be me interviewing, and it was okay, but I think it's better when you're a part of it. And
when there's I find that when there's multiple people involved, it's easier for me to regulate everything that's going on from behind the scenes a little bit, if I need right now, I'm kind of watching both of our channels and the interface and making sure neither one of us is everything's recording and the camera's going, and you know what I mean? It's easy enough when it's the two of us. But when there's another person, it's I don't know. I find it's a little bit easier just to step back and watch everything from.
Did you just say no?
No, not at all.
Are you sure?
I'm just saying in the past that's what I've found.
I think you just said yeah.
No. If I don't mean that at all. I just mean if we can make it work, we make it work. I'd love to, but it's also I feel like you're just way better at talking to other people than I'm comfortable with this talking to you. But when there's other people, I'm like, I'm just sitting in the background like a weirdo, just leering. I am also here.
I mean, I don't know. I don't know how to respond to that because it is fun to have you there.
We'll make it work.
And you also do a great job producing. And
so we'll see what next week looks like and sounds like.
And you're steering me towards things and giving me little notes and holding up note cards for me and telling me what the time is and all that stuff. Because it is a different conversation. And I know I kind of need to be corralled in sometimes because I would talk to somebody for 4 hours and not even think about giving them a glass of water. So,
but we will be back next week with some guests. So tune in.
I'm excited. I'm really excited for the way things are going, and I'm excited about the podcast.
Thanks for everybody that's been listening, and feel free to leave us some comments on Spotify or YouTube or Facebook, or send us an email, or go to selfpublishednl.com and leave us a comment.
Or send me an email directly. I have been feeling pretty good about myself lately, so
All right, folks. Thanks for listening. We'll be back next week.
I'm Vickie Morgan.
I'm Josh Morgan.
Thanks for listening.
We'll see you next week.